What's going on, everybody? My name is Jack Kelly, host of Point to the Spot, a U.S.-based podcast focused on the world of football. Today is actually going to be a bit of a special episode. Joining me, as always, is my entirely bonkers friend, Reed Hammond. Reed, how are you, my good friend?
Very well, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing well. And, of course, joining the show also is a future presidential candidate. Ball for Pres 2020. I can't stand Donald Trump's America. Andrew Ball. Andrew, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jack.
And as I said, guys, this is a bonus pod. And this is a bonus pod in the sense that a few weeks ago now, Andrew actually took a trip down to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to visit and kind of do a little bit of city exploring, but also, to do some stuff, do some coverage of the NPSL team from Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Torrent. We'll get a little bit more into that in a minute. But Andrew, what was the city of Milwaukee like?
I had a very fun weekend with Reed. He showed me the sights / the east side. I've only been to Milwaukee once. That was a couple years ago. So this was my first real time with a real Milwaukee resident experiencing the city. I had a great time. Learned a lot about soccer culture in Milwaukee, which I enjoyed immensely, and I think we'll hear about the show. And I really enjoyed meeting a lot of new people. I mean, we talk about, U.S.-based podcast focused on the world of football. It's fun to kind of engage in some work, a U.S.-based podcast focused on our own backyard, or Reed and Jack's backyard, a little less my backyard. But this is a fun project. I think you all are really going to enjoy it.
It was cool, and like I said, you were down there. The Milwaukee Torrent were having their annual kickoff, I guess. The MPSL side had a little bit of a gathering for supporters, community members, and, of course, pesky reporters like the two of you being there. Reed, what was this kickoff event that the Torrent was doing like? Where'd they do it? What was the event like? How big was the crowd? Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a packed Brenner Brewing Company. A local Milwaukee microbrew /bar / a little bit of an art gallery as well. Very interesting.
Yeah, a weird art gallery thing.
No, not weird. Very interesting.
Cool.
Very Milwaukee. It's over on 5th Street, over in Harborview. Not exactly my neck of the woods in that I have no money, so I don't really go over there that often. But yeah, an absolutely packed Brenner Brewing. Really, really great to see, because when we walked in, it was a little, not necessarily sparse, but kind of how we expected it to be. A couple families, a couple players dotted here and there. But by the end of it, man, you could barely move. It was absolutely packed, and I think that's exactly what the Torrent wanted to see out of it. And it was definitely what you want to see in the U.S. lower leagues.
Yeah, no, sounds pretty cool. From my understanding, it was a good way for season ticket holders to come pick up their tickets. There were plenty of players around. Head coach and owner of the team, Andy Davi, was there. There was a lot going on. And you guys actually got to talk to a couple players. Right, Andrew?
Yeah, we did. We got to talk to Drew Ruggles, and then Reed, you're going to help me on the name of the other.
Nick Berry, goalkeeper Nick Berry.
And goalkeeper Nick Berry, and Ruggles is the captain. Both of them have been around both years of the club's existence, and they gave us some perspective on changes within the organization on and off the pitch. So check that out. And this would be where we splice it.
Yep.
Did your audio pause? Did Andrew pause talking for a really long time?
No, but you did. So we might want to.
Yeah.
There might be a touch up coming eventually.
We'll just do it again. I'll just be like, Andrew, what was it? You guys got to meet a couple of the players. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Do that again.
And what was it? Nick Berry? I could sound like less than an idiot.
Nick Berry.
Sounds good. I got this.
No headphones, Andrew?
No headphones. No Nagasi.
Okay, let's try again. 3, And you guys actually got to meet a couple of the players. Is that right, Andrew?
To chat with captain and midfielder Drew Rugels, as well as goalkeeper Nick Berry, and get their perspective. Both these guys have been with the club both of the seasons of existence. Got a chance to hear their perspective on changes on and off the pitch. So let's check that out.
And here's the two of them talking. Football.
Match that I spent an insane amount of money to go to.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end of the pod. Reed, can I just get you can you just say that's Eric? What's his name? Eric Berry.
Nick Berry.
Nick Berry.
Just say let's say that's Nick Berry.
Yeah, that's Nick Berry.
No, just like that's Nick Berry, because you're just gonna like chop it, put it in, and then have it come back out.
That's Nick Berry.
And now do the other guy.
That's Drew Rugels.
Do that one again.
That's Drew Rugels.
Do it again, you awkward son of a bitch.
It's a difficult word to say. That is Drew Rugels.
Okay, perfect.
That is
the
Kyle
most
Becker.
awkward name drop introduction. Okay.
It could be it might be fixed in editing. We'll see.
Do you guys remember what the conversation that you had with them was like?
Oh yeah, it was about a little bit about him being Kyle Beckerman. A little bit about ambition and long-term goals, like most of this was.
All right,
Like
so then I'm gonna
indoor and outdoor culture too.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna ask you the real general question. Like, so you got to talk to them. Both have been players with the club. Both have been around. I'm gonna ask you that. Okay, ready? So we're coming back in.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, both of these guys have been, players for a good amount of time. They've been around. They've been around the club both years. Reed, what stood out to you while you were talking to the two of them?
Well, besides the fact that one Drew Rugels looks strikingly like a light-skinned Kyle Beckerman. Past that, it's just that they're, despite playing in a little bit of a lower division, they're definitely ambitious. And the word bought, the idea of them buying in to Andy Davies, a man that we're gonna bring up our talk to in a little bit. They definitely bought into what he's selling, and I think a lot of people have. And you can see why Drew's the captain. You can see why, and if you saw Nick, you would see why. He was one of the guys to talk to us, considering his, James Comey level of tall. Just a massive human being. And you definitely got, there's almost an electricity in the air when they're talking about, the future of what they want to do here in Milwaukee.
And Andrew, I know they, touched a little bit on soccer culture. What's that like there in the Midwest? Obviously, you come from out east. What is it? What did you get the sense from them? They talked about seeing a lot of fans out, seeing, a little bit, they talked a little bit about wanting to go into that USL third division, how MPSL should not be the end goal for them. What did you take away from your conversation with them, and how, this MPSL is the starting point. It's not at all the end goal.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed certainly by the ambition that they showed. I also was interested for some perspective. Drew is from, I believe, North Carolina, Illinois. So you also kind of like Reed and I had two very different geographical and cultural perspectives. And it was interesting to hear that you look at the roster, and most of the guys on this team are from either Wisconsin or they go to Wisconsin schools. So talking UWM, Marquette, UW Green Bay, the like, or they're from Chicagoland or Twin Cities area. So they're kind of building this culture where you're in Milwaukee, you feel like the players are, they have similar backgrounds, and they play for schools that and I don't think that's a requirement for a lower league team, but just like there's such this pride of being from Wisconsin and being from the Midwest in certain ways that don't exist from being from Maryland or being from the East Coast. it's interesting how they were very in tune with how Coach Davi is trying to build a juggernaut made up of those Midwestern and Wisconsin-bred talents. And I think that two ways in which the team is very relatable to the fans and is able to be a mainstay in the community. I was very impressed just like there at this event. And like partially that's the strong-willed German nature of Coach Davi, which Jack, you played for him. You could probably attest to that. But also, I think these guys want to be involved in the community and engage with people and build this soccer culture. And that doesn't exist everywhere. You know, sometimes you get guys showing up not to collect a paycheck because it's semi-pro, but, you know, just doing their time and then checking out. And really, there's a strong engagement, I think, with the community, even amongst the players, but especially with Coach Davi as well.
And you guys actually got to sit down and talk to Coach Davi. Really interesting guy. I've worked with him in the past when I was a high school soccer player. His fitness sessions are awful. But I mean, you said strong-willed. He has very ambitious goals, and he shared those with the two of you. So let's take a listen to some of the things that he had to say.
We rocked that transition.
We're getting pretty good at this whole talk show thing. Did I lose both of you? Reed, you're still muted.
You might have lost Andrew.
Damn. Well, at least we got that smooth transition in.
No, Andrew's there.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought I had lost you.
I can't tell if it's me. It's storming now right here, so I can't tell if that might be why the Wi-Fi is being a little weird.
I got you. David talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to edit part of it because part of it.
Yeah. I'm going to do a lot of editing.
Do we want to have an intermission to what he's saying and then move on to something else? Like,
might not be a bad idea.
I'm trying to remember what he talked about in the first part.
Did he talked about the camps at the end. I think we kind of asked him about general ambition in the first part. Maybe that was
it was something about.
It was a very wide-ranging interview.
Balls. I deleted it like a dumbass. Trash. Please update my trash. Thank you. Hold on, I got the audio right here.
It's bad. I just listened to this.
Me too. He talked about wanting to be around MLS. Was that the place to start?
No, at the very beginning, Reeds was like, "You feel like you're settling," and he was like, "No, we planned for this." That was the very first.
Yeah, we're from UW. In terms of I think this tonight speaks to it, but in terms of being in the community, Milwaukee, there's so much going on. Also in the sporting scene, do you think that the Torrent really are now kind of emerging through this kind of noisy market?
Well, the good thing is we don't have to really competition right now. When we have games, the only competition that we have in the summer is the Brewers.
Yeah.
And luckily they have 80 home games or something like that. So, but obviously you always wish for more support, specifically from the youth soccer clubs. But people also, and I understand, they want to see if there's really something that's going on, or if it's just a one-year thing or whatever. We have 3-4 clubs who really work with us, and it's just gonna go better and bigger.
Can you speak to that relationship, just with the clubs and kind of creating a system, a cohesive?
Yeah, we're going to have a press release pretty soon. It's basically what it means that the clubs obviously support the Torrent with coming to games and advertise for the Torrent. And then what we just do is I do sessions with the coaches, or the players come out to practice sessions for the kids, because we want, and I think you see that at the event today, important is that there is the communication with the fans.
Yeah.
And not just that you can go to the players and say, hey, I'm this and this guy, and Daniel or whoever would like to talk to you, and you see the guys do this. This is pretty important, that you have to go out to the community. You can't be you can't be locked. You have to go out, and this is what it basically involves.
Yeah, Jack told us a lot about. He was on. Good kid. Couldn't make it.
Killer, the most Irish
We in finals as well. But we're not.
It's
We're
your
not
passion,
done.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is NPSL the end goal?
Okay, so we'll talk about support in the community. Then we'll. Okay, so coming back in, who should I go to first? Andrew, I'm going to go to you because you asked the question.
Where are you gonna cut out?
So it'll be like you're going to come in, and it'll be your questions about embracing the community, and then it'll cut out right before we go to the USL. So we're going to talk about like the community.
You should cut after the USL because we had a lot. I mean, if that's going to be halfway, then the second half is going to have a lot more than the first. Unless you want to break it up even more than.
Yeah, I mean we can break it into thirds.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Bring back-
Hey, Reed, I'm not going to ask you this question because you asked about the USL thing, so I'll ask you about the USL thing. Show me some sign of confirmation. Reed. You stupid fucker.
What? I'll
Just
take it out
me-
in editing.
Just
Mute yourself and be quiet until I bring you back. Okay, 3. So obviously, I mean, he spoke a lot about wanting to get more support and be supported by the Milwaukee community. Andrew, what did he say that really jumped out at you about, that aspect about, wanting to be more engaged with the Milwaukee community? And do you think that they're going about it the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, I guess, but I think the players are really in the right place in terms of building that relationship, very personal relationship with the fans. And Coach Davi is definitely all the way there. And he's partly the main reason they're setting that tone. And I'll also say that Milwaukee is a big city in terms of population, but also in terms of things going on. And the big struggle for a team like the Torrent, especially at the lower levels of American soccer, is definitely going to be convincing people that they are, legitimate is the wrong word, because I think that the organization oozes class and oozes integrity and quality, but just that it's something that it's worth spending your time and energy into supporting, because, and this has been kind of true in Milwaukee, and it's been true in some other major cities, my hometown of Baltimore being one, there have been a lot of fly-by-night lower league clubs. You got to convince people who are clearly very into soccer, be that UWM or Marquette or the Milwaukee Wave or Babs and the tremendous youth soccer community in the area, to convince them to come out and give pro soccer a try and to give this burgeoning movement a try that hopefully, if you're the Torrent, will wind up in MLS. If not MLS, then something like USL or even USL D3, kind of as a taster. And Coach Davi was very clear that is the goal. And I think that they're building that community support. I went to a match, actually, which I'll talk about a little later. They're very much well on their way, but they have stiff competition and still some work yet to be done, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on it right there. Davi does have a lot of, lofty goals, but rightfully lofty goals for a soccer city like Milwaukee. So let's take a minute and listen here to what he has to say about, potentially being in that USL third division, being associated with MLS, etc.
No, clear no. I mean, obviously, many people don't know how much money you have to put into now Division 3 or Division 2 USL. Because obviously you have to sign something that you don't know. Some people know it, but the problem is not raising the money to run actually a season. The problem is really having this money. You need ownership,
Franchise fees.
Exactly. And but yeah, we're working on this. But absolutely not. I mean, this can't be the end goal. It's the beginning. It is a good beginning. So we have a kind of a 5-year plan that we follow. So we're on a good way.
Does USL 3, is that, do you think that's a positive step?
Yes, because I think if you talk about NASL or USL, in my opinion, you want to be involved with MLS.
Yeah.
And USL is MLS. So, and you don't know with all. I mean, I obviously I like also the NASL, but right now they're down to 8 teams.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, it's not easier to go NASL or USL. It's basically the same. Yeah. So, and they have right now, they have, if I have the right information, they have a provisional second division status. So we have to see how this all ends out. So.
But USL is would you say the preferred?
Yes, absolutely yes.
To kind of get the MLS association.
Correct.
And do you think that in terms of market, do you think Milwaukee is a legitimate, at minimum D2 market? And then maybe once we get to a place where maybe we have promotion relegation, you can see.
Yeah, well, in promotion relegation, you don't need to discuss this. What I think the problem with promotion relegation is, you just don't have the system for like you have it in all the other countries with a system that when you get promoted, you obviously get more money, so you don't have to worry. And when you relegate it, there's, for example, Germany has an umbrella system now that when you get relegated, you still get more money than a normal team in another division, just that you don't have to let people go and stuff. And if we don't have this here, you can't do this. And as long as you have, in my opinion, the franchise you have to buy, as long as you won't have promotion relegation.
I love seeing this.
He's from around here.
Yeah, I'm from around here. He's from Baltimore.
Yeah, so not around here.
Yes, yeah. Really, it's really great to see. I talked with James Moran last year, and it's so cool to see all of this going on. I love to see it. And he was talking to me about the amount of fundraising that has to be done, and it's very ridiculous. But
I mean, just like even thinking, like 5 years ago, to see this kind of support for a team in Milwaukee was.
But you have to say, Milwaukee is a tough sport. It's a tough to do this. It's maybe a little, for me as a German, hard to say, maybe a little bit too German.
Yeah. All right, Reed.
That's actually perfect because we're going to have to edit it somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, this is like the part that's going to get cut out because he went rogue and started blasting people that he didn't like. It was amazing to listen to the first time. Okay, so Reed, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Well, I guess not a super simple question, but it'll be like, you guys talk to him about those goals. USL Division 3 is one, normal USL in that Division 2 stat, and like something like that. We're gonna talk about that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you live in Milwaukee, so I'm gonna ask you, like, is Milwaukee a legitimate market to have a USL side or a USL 3 side, something like that. All right, we're back in 3. So Reed, I mean, we heard him talk about it. MPSL is not the end goal. It shouldn't be the end goal. And, he's got big goals. He talks a little bit about USL 3, about USL's affiliation with MLS, even about the NASL. What impression did you get in terms of, like, he sets these goals and he's very ambitious. Like, do you think he is the right person to actually get this done?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't name another man on the face of the earth that could. Because it's not only ambition, it's this sense of gravitas that he has to him that you just kind of he just draws you in. He's definitely a born leader, if nothing else. Yeah, can't kind of enough. Very interesting man to talk with, and I think, being from Milwaukee, I think there's definitely enough people, to meet his goals of USL 3 to me sounds completely realistic. I don't find that to be that lofty of a goal at all. USL itself, I think USL itself has to be kind of the at this point the dream. Not necessarily like pie in the sky, but I think this is how you pitch it. A one-day USL side. It's just Milwaukee's. It's a lot of people, but it's much more spread out than you would think. In our transit system is not necessarily best in the world either. So there's definitely difficulties in working within Milwaukee, and I think a few people more than Andy know that, and I think it's part of the challenge that he has, set for himself and set for his team.
Okay, that's perfect audio. Now we're gonna go into the two up front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I forgot what the name of the podcast was, so that's why I didn't just go into this nice smooth transition. What are their names? I'm opening Twitter also.
We should finish though with the tail end of what Andy said, because he had some good stuff at the end. Not the off the record stuff, but
Like talking about the camps.
not even that. I thought he had something else interesting at the end. We can do the 2 up front guys, and then if we decide we want the other stuff, we can just record a little bit later.
Yeah, okay, we can do the 2 up front stuff. I'm like trying to think. Those are the 2 things that jumped out at me. He probably said good stuff, but like it's like when you get them to say it like coherently in like the isolated thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he did have a good bit though about like the team, the on-field team being.
Oh, with them being competitive enough to win.
Yeah,
We'll have that loop all the way. We'll have that be the end with him.
Okay.
And we'll like kind of give an update at that point whenever the editing is like
It is going poorly.
The torrent currently sit here.
Yeah,
Results.
we're there in the table.
But yeah.
Sounds good. Reed, you have these guys' names, right?
I'll look in.
Okay.
Where are they? What's this podcast handle?
2 up front?
2 up
How do you
front
spell
soccer.
What? I think it's Stewart and Baxter.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And the guy who played is Stewart, and the guy who's from Florida is Baxter. Don't quote me on that.
And they're based in Milwaukee, right?
Yep. Presented by 3 Lions Pubs.
We got to find a podcast, or we got to find a sponsor.
A pub, preferably.
Baxter Colburn and Simon Proven.
Yes.
Sorry, this video is unavailable. What the fuck? Yep, go.
Coming back in. Who wants to talk about they talk about a little bit with the indoor-outdoor kind of thing, and then...
I can, because of Blast.
Okay, that'll be good. And then, Reed, I'll throw it back to you when they talk a little bit about, Milwaukee, soccer culture died for Milwaukee, and then it came back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're in 3. You guys also had the opportunity to speak with Baxter Colburn and Simon Provent, who are the hosts of the 2 Up Front soccer podcast. They're a member of the Brew Sportsnet. And they had some interesting insight to share with the 2 of you, having been around the Milwaukee soccer scene and kind of that lower league, atmosphere for a long time. They talked a little bit about the Milwaukee Wave and soccer culture in the city, shared some personal experiences. Andrew, what jumps out about you? They touched on how the Wave, was successful in the city of Milwaukee, pretty popular, kind of seen that go out a little bit. I mean, you can relate to this a little bit with the Blast. Do you think, they talked about the importance of indoor soccer in growing American soccer culture. Is that something that you would agree with?
Hold on. Shouldn't we get their audio before you ask me the question?
Yeah. Yep. Let's do that again in 3.
Just do the part where you ask me the question.
Yeah, I'll cut it up.
Yeah, it was good aside from that.
Okay. So, Andrew, having talked to them, they touched on indoor versus outdoor, not being from Milwaukee necessarily, growing soccer culture, how outdoor soccer has kind of died a little bit, or indoor soccer has died out a little bit in favor of outdoor soccer. I mean, you're from Baltimore, a city who has had a good indoor soccer team forever, one of the perennial powerhouses in the Baltimore Blast. Baltimore Spirit, I think, was their original name, perhaps. What can you speak to? Will you speak to that a little bit? Do you think that they were right that indoor soccer laid a little bit of a path, but now we really should be building on this outdoor model?
Yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore and Milwaukee in many ways are kind of kindred spirits in this regard because they have strong collegiate presence in Maryland and Baltimore. You have very close by UMBC and University of Maryland, who are both elite powerhouses. Very good high school and youth club presence. And then, most importantly, I think a very strong indoor presence. And all these factors have historically in Baltimore, and I think in Milwaukee, meant that the city really hasn't been able to have an outdoor professional team, or at least a team with professional ambitions, really take hold. Because the preeminent brand in those cities that has been around for years and decades is the indoor brand. And these guys, have some very close personal experiences in terms of either playing for or knowing people who have played for clubs in Milwaukee. And I think that they spoke well to the fact that, indoor can kind of only take you so far, but it has been a powerful way to build soccer culture certainly in Baltimore, because the Blast is a very known quantity. You ask people who may not be as familiar with very specific elements of soccer culture and who don't engage with supporter sections and tifos and waving scarves and whatnot, but they know the Blast and they go to Blast games and they like the Blast. It's kind of the issue will be, I think, for a city like Milwaukee and for Baltimore to a lesser extent, is figuring out how to channel that energy and that passion in a way where you don't alienate the teams that kind of laid that groundwork, the indoor teams. But, at some point you need to transition to building an outdoor model, because that's where it's at. I mean, obviously that's where it's at globally. There's no EPL for indoor soccer. And it's obviously where it is in the US. So it will be interesting to see how the Torrent can manage to do that. I think they can. And I think that, the two are not mutually exclusive.
And they spoke a little bit about the Milwaukee Rampage, sharing some personal stories that two of their brothers had, played on the team, captained the side. You live in Milwaukee and you do this every day. Kind of talked about how the city's hungry for an outdoor team again. Are there signs? Do you think there are signs that the city of Milwaukee is hungry to have an outdoor professional team again?
Oh yeah. I think it's definitely a next step. Especially like if you look at the Bucks, even the Brewers to perhaps a lesser extent, Milwaukee is becoming a bit of a sports city. And I think this would be a great progression to have, because, the Bucks are good and all, but the Torrent would be something that Milwaukee could have unto itself, which would be new. The Brewers also, originally it was the Milwaukee Braves and who are now the Atlanta Braves, and the Brewers kind of had to cultivate something in Milwaukee on their own. And I think it's a similar path that the Torrent are going to have to walk of not being a soccer team in Milwaukee, but to be a soccer team for Milwaukee. And I think, there's definitely demand. There's definitely people who want it there, and there was definitely an entire bar full of highly motivated supporters even now. So I don't see this as something that will go off the rails or will go stale.
Cool. No, we can do a little cut. I just wanted to explain what I was thinking next. Now we're gonna go into we'll do a little bit of like Andrew. You actually got to go to a match. Andrew will talk about the game a little bit.
Unfortunately, they are winless this season.
And then
1-3 losses, not great.
And then we'll come back and it'll be like, and even though the Torrent aren't off to a great start, winless in their first 4 matches, 1 point out of those possible 12. Davi does have some lofty goals for the club and high expectations for the season, and they could probably turn around. And then we'll give the blah 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 him talking about them being successful, and then we'll be like, that's the story. Thanks for listening. Blah 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 blah. Good. Cool.
Yep.
Mainly because I have to fucking write a hot time story tonight still, and I'm tired.
Yep. We'll crank it out.
Journalism, man. Sorry, I'm sending a message to my editor.
I see your tweet, Reed. Welcome to our lives as journalists, man.
What's it say?
It's going to be a motherfucker to edit.
All right,
True.
3. And guys, as much fun as it is to talk about the team and talk about their goals, it's even better to hear about the product on the field. Andrew, you actually got to go and see the Torrent play in one of their preseason matches at their home stadium out in Hart Park in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. What was that experience like?
It was like it was peak lower division American soccer. So they play at Hart Park in Wauwatosa, which is, if you're not from Milwaukee area, it's like just northwest of the city in the suburbs. They play at this city public park stadium, and there's train tracks running along, and periodically throughout the match, trains would go by, these freight trains, and it was peak lower division American soccer. And I actually picked a poor day to go. They were playing an exhibition match against UW Whitewater, which they won 3-1, I believe. But it was unseasonably cold for late April in Milwaukee, and it was raining. So I was actually impressed they got as many people as they did out there. There were, I think, a few dozen people who kind of came and went as the match went on because it was cold, as I can attest to out there. I think for me, it's a good setup they have at Hart Park. I would like to see them back in the city at some point. I know that they were in Milwaukee last year, I believe, or just outside in Brown Deer. I think that especially if USL is your goal, when the hallmarks that USL teams have had is a downtown stadiums, that's a little more complicated in Milwaukee because you don't have very centralized public transit. But given that there are areas in downtown that are revitalized now in Milwaukee and really are very livable, I think the downtown stadium makes sense. As for the players, the on-the-field product, they're off to a little bit of a slow start in NPSL. They have 3 losses, 1 draw, but it is a very competitive division. AFC Ann Arbor tops the standings. They're one of the most competitive teams in the NPSL. Also in the league is Detroit City FC, which is one of the preeminent brands in non-league American football. And this is all new for the Torrent. They moved up to the NPSL starting this year. So I think that even if the on-the-field product isn't quite, going to bring them trophies quite yet, I think that they very much can get there. And I think that even just from a fan's perspective, having the very established brands like Ann Arbor, but also especially Detroit City, which are some of the, like I said, some very well-regarded teams and have very, very strong supporters culture, I think can serve as a model for the Torrent on and off the pitch. So very interesting experience actually going to the game, enjoying the football, can confirm that the Torrent can do it on a cold, rainy night in Wauwatosa. And I think that even if the results on the pitch have not been up to the standards that Coach Davi perhaps wants, I think that they're very much on the right track in terms of their play.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, they're not off to a great start. There are good signs, and Coach Davi was extremely encouraged when you guys talked to him ahead of the season. Let's take a listen to some of the goals and expectations that he has. And I mean, obviously, this is a little bit before they actually take their season off, but I think that it's a pretty decently long season, and that they could still stir the pot up a little bit. Is that a good enough transition?
Love it. That was great.
Okay, cool.
Should we wrap it up just like the usual? Where can they find you in the Twitter? Where can they find the Torrent?
At MKE Torrent.
At Hart Park.
All right. I'll bring it back and we can outro. 3. Reed.
Oh my God, Reed.
We're going to outro.
Yeah, I've been listening.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had your headphones in or not. 3. So, guys, there you have it. Obviously, Coach Davi with some big goals, some exciting stuff going on there in the city of Milwaukee around Torrent. We'll be excited to see how the rest of the season goes for them. For now, though, that is our show for the day. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Point to the Spot. Of course, you can find us all on the social. Reed, where can they find you on Twitter?
At That One Kid Reed.
And Andrew, where can they find you?
At Andrew Ball, BAHL.
Of course, guys, you can find me at actual Jack Kelly. I am actually Jack Kelly. Make sure you check out the show at Point to the Spot with the number 2. Tweet us what you thought of the show there. We're interested in hearing your thoughts about, whether it's the Torrent, whether it's, lower division soccer culture, any of those things. Also, make sure you guys really do check out the Torrent on social media. You can find them on Facebook, on Twitter. On Twitter, they are at MKE Torrent, TORRENT. Coach Davi and the rest of the staff over there are doing a great job putting a lot of stuff together. And from, being a Wisconsin native, this is some exciting stuff. So we're looking forward to seeing how the rest of their season goes. And thank you all very much for listening. Do we need to redo the outro? What I miss?
No. I was just going to say, go actually see them at Hart Park, but it's totally fine. I think people get the idea.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to stop the broadcast now.